So the MyFitnessPal app, I just thought it would be quite good to go over kind of the basics of this because I know for some of you guys, you have only maybe just started using the app. And there's a few sort of little hacks to make it easier and almost just to go over what everyone kind of knows already, but to kind of really dial in and so you actually really know the importance of kind of tracking accurately because I think it can be quite easy to pick up bad habits with tracking. And so you think you're doing a good job, but actually you could be doing a much better job, which will help your progress. You might be under eating more than you think. You might be overeating more than you think just because of a few slip ups with how you're tracking. So the MyFitnessPal app, obviously, the main purpose is to track your calories and to track your macros. So the macros, obviously, is just to split up how we break up our calories. So with protein, fats, and carbs. And then on a deeper level, we can also see from that what nutrients we're getting or not getting. So the app is really important, not just for people that want to lose weight or gain weight. Like it's more than that. And I think that sometimes what a lot of coaches miss out on the fact that it's not just about calories. It's also about actually trying to build a healthier relationship with food because we demonize MyFitnessPal. A lot of people demonize it because people can be quite like maybe obsessive with it sometimes, or they can build a bad relationship with food through it. And actually, we can build a much better relationship with food through MyFitnessPal, as long as we're guided correctly and we realize that it can be used to give us a much better insight of actually what we're missing from our diet. So all of the nutrients that help our bodies to function optimally as well. So it gives us a much better insight into what we're actually putting into our bodies because often we think we're hitting all the different areas of our diet and we might not be at all. There might be a lot of things we're missing out on. Um, so it helps keep us focused, accountable, healthier, and more aware of what we are putting in and out of our bodies, as well as, of course, losing weight and building muscle. So yes, it can track your calories, but more importantly, it can also track your macros and your nutrients. And with the macro side of things, of course, it's about calories in, these calories out. At the end of the day, if you're trying to lose weight, you want to know how many calories you're putting in your body, and then you know how many calories you need to be burning. But it's also about the macro side of things as well, because that is what's going to help actually determine your body recomposition. Sorry, loads of spelling mistakes there. That is what is going to help determine your actual body recomposition. So yes, you're going to lose weight if you don't eat as much as you're burning. That is a given. But it's not a given. Like if you're not eating the right types of foods, your body still isn't going to look, even if, for example, your goal is to lose weight, it's not going to look like you imagine it would or like you perhaps even want it to, unless you're thinking about exactly how much protein you want to be eating, covering how much healthy fats and how many carbs you're eating in the right amounts. That is what's going to determine your actual body recomposition, i.e., the shape of your body, how much it's sculpted, how much muscle you're growing. So, all of these things play a really big role. Okay, so that's the importance of it. These are the common mistakes. So, firstly, inconsistent logging. Now, this is something that we all do. It's really easy to do this. Inconsistent logging, when you maybe are weighing something and you are typing it in wrong to MyFitnessPal, or you don't use the verified food logo with the green tick, these sort of things, or you just forget to log things. So neglecting drinks, sauces, like tomato sauce can be quite calorific, or even butter or oils, any of this stuff. And now it's totally fine. I'm not telling you guys like, oh, we should be obsessive. We should be totally obsessive about tracking every single gram. No, we definitely shouldn't. But it's also just about building an awareness of, right, well, if every single day you are never tracking butter, you're never tracking oil, you're never tracking drinks, or sauces, these will add up if you are always never tracking all of them all the time. And it could be a lot more calories than you think. As we know, oil, for example, is a lot of calories. Like 1 tablespoon of oil is hundreds of calories. And then ketchup, if you're using full sugar ketchup, that's quite a lot of calories as well. It's certainly very sugary. If you're someone that eats ketchup with every meal, that could add up. And drinks, like literal juices, liquid calories. Orange juice, for example, fresh orange juice. So many people think this is super healthy. And it is to a degree, but a bottle of orange juice is actually not healthy. There's a lot of sugar in that. So again, it's really calorific, and there's a lot of sugar that isn't very good for you if you overeat it. So again, it helps to bring awareness when we're tracking all of these little things as to what we're actually putting into our body. So do not neglect your drinks, your liquid calories. Do not neglect your sauces or small snacks, anything like that. And then another common mistake is simply just incorrect portion sizes. And we're going to get onto this in a second about how to correct these mistakes. But why is it important that we don't make these mistakes? So ultimately, we're just going to hinder our progress big time. And I want you guys to get to your goal weight, whether that's to gain weight or lose weight, your goal body composition, your goal fitness level, all of these things, your goal health, your goal happiness. I want you to get to this goal as soon as possible. So it's going to just hinder your progress if you're not quite tracking accurately enough. And if you are going to the extent and the bother of tracking, you may as well do it right. And then the last thing is people get frustrated if they aren't seeing their body change quick enough. And although a fitness journey is, you have to be in it for the long game, you will see things change a lot quicker if you are tracking accurately. So if you aren't, then you might become a bit more frustrated because it might take you longer to reach your goals. You might lose your motivation, and then you might ultimately quit your fitness journey. And at the end of the day, that is the last thing I want you guys to do, to get frustrated, to not enjoy the process, and to quit. I always think if you're going to do something, do it as well as you can. Build a healthy habit, and it will become easier and easier. So I'm trying to catch you guys early on from making sure you don't get into bad habits. It's really hard to then obviously take those bad habits away from you. But if we just build healthy habits to start off with, you guys will be fine. So, okay, what can we do then to make life easier, and what cheat codes are there to help us out? So, first of all, obviously, well, maybe not obvious, but track foods and drinks as soon or as quickly as you can after you consume them. So it's so easy, isn't it, for us to just forget what we've actually eaten. Even like if I asked you guys now, oh, what did you eat today? You'll probably be like, if you haven't tracked, you'll probably be thinking, God, what have I eaten today? Like, it's really easy to forget these things. So it's about trying to just get into that habit as quickly as possible of just logging your food afterwards. And I think a lot of people feel like it's really mentally draining. I hear a lot of people say to me all the time, oh, I hate tracking. It's just too much. Oh, it takes the joy out of cooking and all the rest of it. But there's ways to get around this as well. And also it's about perspective at the end of the day. Like, as humans, we are conditioned to think negatively. We're actually a lot of the time we're addicted to negative thoughts because we get adrenaline and we get hormones sent to us from our brain to the rest of our body that kind of almost gives a bit of a dopamine hit the more that we think negative things, because we're used to it. And the more you're used to something, the more you crave it. And then it becomes this weird addictive thing, even though you don't want to have negative thoughts. So try to always think positively, change your perspective on things. And if tracking is something that at the moment you find is like it's like a negative thing in your head, try and flip that up. Like, flip it upside down. Think about all the benefits that tracking is giving you. And think about, actually, you know what? It's a bit annoying, but at the end of the day, it does only take a couple of minutes to do after a meal. And a couple of minutes each day out of your day is just these little tiny things. It's going to change your life potentially, because it's going to mean for once in your life, you know for a fact you are hitting your calorie goals. You know you're putting into your body what your body needs. Like, flip it on its head how you view tracking calories. Don't be that person that thinks about it negatively and can't be bothered and gives up. It's all so much about a fitness journey or being successful at anything in life is perspective. You can think of a million reasons, and we are conditioned to think of a million reasons why something is negative and annoying and all the rest of it. Or you can think about the millions of reasons why it could really change your lives. Just a couple of minutes out your day can change your life, okay? And I really think tracking is such a powerful tool, but yeah, there's just a stigma around it. So yes, make sure that you try to track your foods as quickly as you can after you eat your meal. It'll just make your life so much easier because you'll be able to remember things so much better as a result. And if you are like, maybe in a social situation, you're out at work, you don't really want to be on your phone tracking calories after you eat, I totally understand it. In that case, just write a quick note, even scribble it down on a piece of paper, what you've just eaten. Or what I do is when I'm on the move, it sounds strange, but Juan does this as well. He found this really useful, is he just keeps the packaging from what he's eaten throughout the day. So if he's on the move and he had to get a meal deal or whatever it is, he just keeps the packaging, puts it in a plastic bag, and then he just scans all the barcodes at the end of the day. Okay, then just make sure, I've said it already, but include your liquid calories, your sauces, and your little small snacks here and there. Don't forget about those. And they're easier to track than you think most of the time. They're usually well-known brands, those sort of things. So you can just scan the barcode and it will go right through. Use a food scale. Might seem obvious, but some people just kind of guess, and that just won't cut it because you'll be surprised at you'll be way off if you just try to guesstimate everything all the time. So try to use a food scale. And pre-log meals. So this is the one thing that helps me the most with tracking calories for me. It is simply to prep your meals or as many meals as you can. For example, your lunches, maybe you want to prep for the whole week. If you know you're always going to be out and about, you're not at home to make meals. Prep your meals and have the same lunch or the same two lunches for the whole week. It's going to make your life so much easier, and embrace the monotony of eating the same thing and eating simple things. So just things that are made up of whole foods, not loads of different fancy sauces, not like homemade soups or this or that have a million different ingredients in them. That's going to make it harder. You're not going to enjoy tracking that. Try to keep your foods as simple as possible, and then just freeze them and have the same thing for the whole week, and you pre-log it into your MyFitnessPal. So for example, after this call, guys, literally just go into your MyFitnessPal and be like, right, I'm going to commit this week to having 2 different types of sandwiches for lunch or whatever it is that you enjoy having for lunch. And I'm going to pre-log it in the app right now. And that means I need to make sure I have enough of that for the week, so maybe you can pre-prep a few sandwiches for tomorrow and the day after, and just ensure you have enough ingredients to make those sandwiches for the rest of the week. Boom, done. Like, that is a third of your meals already covered for on MyFitnessPal, and it would take you a few minutes to log that on every single day. And then you could, if you wanted, do the same for your breakfast. If you know that realistically you actually do kind of have the same breakfast every day, every morning. Most people do. It's usually porridge or eggs on toast. Just pre-log it right now after this call and get into the habit, guys. So set an alarm on your phone that, for example, every Sunday night from now on, you can repeat it, make it a repeated thing. So you don't even need to reset the alarm every week. Just set it on your alarm, guys. Every Sunday night, you're just going to pre-log what you fancy having for your breakfast or your lunch or dinner, or maybe all 3 for that week on MyFitnessPal. That alone is going to just make tracking so easy. And then the last thing is that that get caught out on is cooked vs uncooked differences. So what I mean by this is, for example, pasta. Pasta is a big one. People will log in their MyFitnessPal things. For example, they'll track cooked pasta and they'll say, oh, I ate 100 grams of cooked pasta. But actually they didn't. They weighed out their pasta when they weighed out their pasta the wrong way around. So actually, they ended up eating like 200 grams of pasta because it was cooked at that point. And actually, they didn't realize, but they've put in 100 grams of cooked pasta instead of uncooked pasta, if that makes sense. So you're actually eating double what you think you're eating. So just be careful with that you're putting in the right thing, that it's cooked. If you've weighed it as cooked, make sure that you track it as cooked. And if you've weighed it as dry, make sure you track it as dry, and that's the same with chicken and things like that. So just be careful of that because that can really catch people out. Just something to be aware of. Then, okay, so within the actual app, um, you can copy meals. You can literally copy and paste meals onto every single day if you want. So if you eat the same thing all the time, you can just create and save recipes and copy them onto every single day. So you don't, so for example, if you are someone that does enjoy creating slightly more complex recipes that do have a few ingredients in them, which is of course nothing wrong with that. If you really do want to do that, that's fine. You can save the recipe and then you just make that same just go into MyFitnessPal before you make that complicated recipe again and just make sure you copy exactly how you made it from the last time by going into MyFitnessPal and just do it, repeating all of the same measurements. And then all you need to do is copy and paste it. You don't need to go back in and relog every single ingredient. You just use that as your recipe. So yeah, save your recipes and set reminders. So you can actually go into your app and you can set reminders to log your food. So for example, if you want your app to ping and tell you at the end of every day, oh, you haven't logged your food, go in and log it now. You can do that. So set reminders. This is going to help a lot as well. Um, and then lastly, within the app, so there's basically people have the ability of creating foods in the app, and then they can input how much calories and the macros that it was made up of. Um, so sometimes it's not actually accurate because people can put in the wrong things, human error. So make sure you're ticking more often than not, if you can help it, try to pick the verified foods that have the green tick on them. They are going to be the ones that are 100% right. So chicken, for example, if there's no barcode to scan, you just go into the MyFitness app and search for chicken, and then make sure you click on the one that's got the green tick. Okay, so then lastly, like some little cheat codes that can really help make tracking easier again is if you haven't got the barcode scanner, guys, on MyFitnessPal app, go get it. I think if you don't have it, it's because you don't have the premium version. And it's really annoying because MyFitnessPal, in the free version, they used to have the barcode scanner. And I'm pretty sure now it's only in the premium version. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it could be really, and honestly, it's worth getting the premium version just for that one feature alone because it just saves so much time because then all you need to do is use your camera, you click on scan food and in the app, and then you just scan through on the QR code and then instantly that product comes up and onto your food diary. Then you can manually input calories as well, guys. So if you are really short on time, but you know roughly how much your meal was in terms of calories, but you know there maybe you already been to packaging, so you don't have a barcode to scan, you can just manually input the calories as well. Because even though I have just said try to, the whole way through this, I've said try to track as accurately as possible. At the end of the day, tracking something is better than nothing. So if the only option is to guesstimate, then still just guesstimate. That's fine. And remember, guys, this is like overall consistency matters. But don't worry if you're not tracking everything all the time, or it's not as accurate as it can be all the time. As long as like 80% of the time it is, it's fine. So I'm not saying be obsessive, guys, and track every single gram and do this and do that. But as long as you're overall more consistent than you are not, then you're going to be fine. And then another little cheat code is, so when you're actually cooking foods, you can actually use something called voice logging. It's like when you take a voice note almost on the app. And it just means when you're cooking food and maybe your hands have been in raw chicken or whatever it is, and you don't want to be having to tap on your phone screen all the time to log things as you're making a meal, you can actually use voice logging as well. So you can set that up in the app too. Let me know if you guys try that one. I'd be interested to see how it works. But I haven't personally tried it myself, but I know other people have tried it and they said it works really well. And then you the last one I'll talk about actually is quite interesting. I feel like a lot of people don't know this, is the that most restaurants now have their menu on MyFitPal. So even when you go out to a restaurant, and it's fine, guys, if you do want to just switch off and enjoy your evening and not worry about calories, that's absolutely fine. You do not need to, especially if you're having a night off and relaxing, you want to enjoy some food, it's fine. You don't need to. But if you're like, no, it doesn't take anything away from my evening. I have a healthy relationship with tracking my food and healthy relationship with food in general. I just want to track my calories to make sure, I'm still on the ball with it all, even when I go out for dinner. That's absolutely fine. And most restaurants now have their menu on MyFitnessPal. So all you actually need to do is type in whatever restaurant you're at and then the dish, what the dish is called, and it will actually populate up with those on the MyFitnessPal app, and you can log it as well. Maybe like more chain restaurants that'll probably work for. Okay, so I think that was most of the cheat codes. In terms of, I'm going to show you now the actual app itself. Now it's going to look a little bit different here because it's a desktop version. But when we're adding food, so for example, I've just put in the example here of I've added in already a McDonald's coffee. But if, for example, you only drink half of it, you can just put in 0.5. So I'll do it again. So when we're here, so you pretend you've already typed in McDonald's coffee, it's come up here, you're gonna hit it. Okay, so that's what and remember, this will look a little bit different on the app. And then you're gonna put here, so you have the option always of what quantity that you ate or drank of that said thing. So make sure, guys, that if you only ate 50% of it, for example, just put in 0.5. And that'll log 50% of whatever it was you've had. Or if you ate or drank 2, you can literally just put in 2 there. So there's lots of ways to get around it to make sure you are logging accurately that way. I know that's probably more obvious part of the app that you guys have probably already sussed out, but just in case you haven't. Would anyone like to unmute and ask any questions? Is there anything that you feel like I haven't covered or you want to know a bit more about in the app? Because I feel like I don't want to go over things that are too obvious, but maybe to you they're not obvious. So please don't feel silly asking anything, guys. You can message in the group chat or just shout out. I'll give
I
you.
have something.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Most of the restaurants in Sweden don't really have anything on the app. How do we track things that we eat out that aren't on the app?
Okay, yeah. So if you really, so that is a bit tricky because there's not really an easy way around it. If the restaurants in Sweden aren't populated yet that much on the MyFitnessPal app, then there one way around it is to just order something that is more simple. So as far as you know, something that doesn't have much sauce to it, for example, because it's usually sauces in restaurants that catch you out big time, because restaurants and chefs use a lot of oil in whatever they cook because that makes things quite tasty or it gives it the right texture. They don't really care about calories. They just want you to have a great experience. So they will often go to town on the amount of oil they cook things with. So try to get things that are as simple as possible or that don't have much sauce in them. And then you can just log in the separate foods of what the meal is made up of as you usually would. So like if you order chicken and veggies, in that case you would have to just guesstimate what you're eating. So if it's like a chicken breast, then you can just type in chicken breast, and there'll usually be like medium chicken breast or whatever. and then, do it that way. But yeah, another thing is like, don't worry too much because you probably don't eat out much. I'm assuming, what do you eat out maybe once a week, Maxine?
At the moment, not very often. I prefer to cook my own meals because then I
Yeah,
have control.
yeah.
But I do miss being able to just comfortably have a meal out.
Okay, that's interesting. So what you could do, another way around it, instead of like almost getting too caught up in the calories that will be really hard to track and guesstimate anyway when you're out, is instead go for a different strategy where you simply pre-plan, make sure you know the day that you're going to eat out on, and then you just give yourself a slightly bigger allowance for your dinner than what you usually would if you're eating at home to account for extra calories that you might not know you're eating. So maybe just eat a little bit less that day for breakfast and lunch so that you have that allowance for dinner with the unknown calories. That's exactly how I would do it. And then it means you can also enjoy and relax and have your dinner without worrying about having to track and guesstimate the calories. And you can just input into the app later on that day, the remaining calories you had for that day that you've allowed to devote for that dinner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a great answer because the only option I have right now is McDonald's because they actually have like a page where you can see what everything contains.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have McDonald's when I
Yeah.
eat out every time because it doesn't fill me up in the
Yeah.
right way. So yeah, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no
Thanks.
worries at all. And yeah, and also don't worry too much because, especially if you're someone that doesn't eat out much, which is a good thing, because at the end of the day, we have to be realistic and eating out is going to be really hard to track your calories if it doesn't come up, the meals don't come up on MyFitnessPal app. And so, if if you don't eat out that much anyway, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it too much because not tracking one meal in a blue moon isn't gonna hinder your progress at all. So don't worry, don't let it rob the joy of you eating out either, even if you don't track it at all. Did anyone else have any questions? And feel free to message in the chat as well, guys. Oh, Jay says, I've asked for the kitchen staff to just use a certain oil or ask for no sauces and or bring your own sauces in your bag. I have allergies and I used to be embarrassed about having to ask staff to change things, but I'm trying to not be so embarrassed about it. Yeah, that yeah, you should never feel embarrassed about that. Especially if you've got allergies, you've got a proper reason. And like just tell them your allergy to things or like you don't like sauces or something. Yeah. Yeah, guys, um if you ever feel like you feel embarrassed to be like a bit picky or whatever in restaurants, or like don't be, honestly, like sometimes you gotta just be bold and just stand for what you believe in, or like be your own like biggest sort of supporter and just be a bit stubborn sometimes, you know what I mean, because no one else is going to do it for you. Like put your foot down sometimes, and like if you are trying to track, or you are trying to just control what you're putting in and out of your body, whatever it is, like just say like, sorry, could I just not have that with the sauce? For example, when I go out for breakfast, a really easy way to have a healthier breakfast, because for example, a lot of places they'll do eggs and Benny or hollandaise sauce or whatever, and I will just say, I've gotten into the habit now of just saying, could I just not have the hollandaise sauce and could I just have some avocado instead? Just like get creative with it, because they honestly, people will say a lot pickier things than that. That's like an easy thing for them to sort out. So never feel embarrassed. And Maxine says, I do feel embarrassed to be picky, but I will definitely work on that. It shouldn't be too much to ask. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And thanks for pointing that out, Jay. Like, exactly. Just tell them that you don't want sauces. It's fine. Did anyone else have any other questions at all? I feel like I've covered most things. I'm gonna like go back to the presentation. And I just had a little summary for you guys. Yeah, so it's the analogy that I was chatting about earlier on, okay, about staying consistent. So consistent doesn't necessarily mean being absolutely obsessive all the time. It just means 80% of the time, do what you need to get done, track as well as you can. 20% of the time, if you don't track that accurately, don't worry. So just be um you can be messily perfect, if that makes sense. Never chase absolute perfection because we're not robots at the end of the day, and don't beat yourself up about it. That's when you start to lose the love of your fitness journey. But overall consistency, if you're consistent more often than not about 80% of the time, perfect. That is what momentum is all about. So it's that whole car analogy for me. And I feel like it's really applicable to tracking calories in terms of um, people always say, God, it's too hard to track calories because they maybe track for a day or two and then they get out of habit or they forget or something goes amiss or they just can't be bothered and they just stop for a couple of days. And then they're like, oh God, now we need to start again. And it's because they've never given them the chance. They've given up, they keep giving up before they build up that habit to the point where it becomes autopilot. And then it's honestly so easy to track calories. So it's just about embracing the fact that it's going to feel a bit mentally draining for the first few weeks that you do it. But once you build and you put into place these little strategies to make life really easy for you to track, and it just becomes autopilot and you stop just forgetting to track and it just becomes autopilot, honestly, it becomes so much easier and you build that momentum to the point where that car is just pushing almost or rolling down the hill by on its own by that point, instead of you getting in its way, stopping the progress, and then not tracking for a few days and then having to push that car off the start line again and start the progress all over again with tracking. That's when it feels hard. That's when your fitness journey feels hard. That's when you put resistance constantly in your way and you're constantly self-sabotaging yourself and it's exhausting. And this is in loads of different areas of your life. So don't exhaust yourselves. Just keep that momentum going, keep pushing, and you'll get there, guys. So that is everything for tracking your calories. I hope you guys learned something new with it. If you have any other questions, just drop a message, just drop a question in the group chat. But that was everything for tonight, guys. Any last questions or are we all good? Just maybe write in the chat, all good if we're all fine. And then we can call it a day. Oh, yeah, all good, perfect. All right, team. All good. Amazing. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And yeah, I'll speak to you guys soon. Bye, everyone.